Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Klingberg Wing Mark II development. I'm Raul Klingberg, your host. Today I'm going to talk about some testing that we did recently at El Mirage Dry Lake Bed in Southern California. This was February the 5th, 2022. As you see, it was a gorgeous day, blue sky, and we're getting set up here early in the morning. It was quite cold that night, about 29 degrees, and it's starting to get a little warmed up. This is Peter standing next to the center section. And we have the wheels attached to it to do some tow testing. And I'm going to just walk us through the video here. I thought I'd show some pictures of the setup. Here's Peter and my buddy Bob getting weight and balance done. We took 3 scales with us, weighing it out because I put new wheels on it. There's and a set of pedals to run the nose steering. Quite a bit of difference in the weight change. The post that you see here going up from the keel, that's got a little GoPro camera on it to watch the tufts on the left wing. There's another little keychain camera mounted right here that looks over my shoulder, and got another one up front that I'll show you in a minute. So we're doing weight and balance to make sure that we have me and the wheels in the right position. And we almost got it right. So here's another shot of Peter and Bob getting it set up, and here you can see the air data boom that I put together. This does angle of attack and has a camera on it to record the airspeed and the angle of attack. Little anemometer mounted on there. You'll see that later in the video. Let's see, I'd probably go to the next picture. Go over to the next one. A little different view of them getting it set up. You see it's beautiful there at the dry lake bed. It looks, stark at first. It is high desert, but there's mountains. I think these are the San Gabriels in the background, and they're covered in snow. It's really quite pretty that day. You'll note that I have the Vornalons set up on the wing here to see if we improve the low speed flow conditions over the elevons. Unfortunately, we didn't collect any data from those on this particular trip, and so be it. Next time we'll get some data on them. Here you see a little bit clearer view of the air data boom. This is the angle of attack indicator. There's an anemometer here, and the camera sitting here to record the data. And I put on a standard set of like rudder pedals to run the nose steering. Had a chance to diddle around with that and get the sensitivity set correctly, and by having regular pedals, there's no more confusion of having to use left stick and right foot and oddball things like that cause confusion. It's just straightforward steering. Of course, I have to have the nose wheel steering because I don't have active yaw control. Now, the lake bed is huge. It's 6 miles long, 2.5 miles wide, and you can go in any direction. So we had the benefit of being able to just point the darn thing straight into the wind and go that way. And wonderful place to do this kind of work. Nice people out there for the most part, from what I could see. Lots of neat activities going on, and everybody gives everybody else the room that they need to do the work and play that they want to do. You'll see the line, tow line, reel of tow line here, 250 feet of that. That's like some 3mm DEMA kind of stuff. Let's see, we'll move on to the next one. What's the next picture here? Oh, yes, I wanted to show you this. This anemometer here I got off of Amazon, and I have the link in the description to this video. And I found it to be a very nice instrument. It's made for heating and air conditioning work. It was only $35. But what it has is it has Bluetooth. It has Bluetooth to your cell phone. And you download a little app for your smartphone, and the readout from the anemometer comes up on your cell phone. In fact, you see Peter's got the cell phone set up here right on the windshield so that he can read the airspeed. And we got it out on a boom so it's far enough away from the truck that it's not disturbed by the truck flow. And I had calibrated this earlier, and we know that it's accurate. So that way, when I give a radio call to Peter to go 15, he can accurately go 15 miles an hour, and we didn't spend $250 on some aircraft airspeed indicator. It worked out really well this way. I highly recommend that if you need to get airspeed and you don't mind about size. It's a pretty good deal. It runs on AAA batteries, and it's very lightweight. So that was pretty cool. And let's see, up to the next here. Here, let me back this up a bit, and I'll pause here. So you're going to see a 3 view here of a ground run. This is a run up to 15 miles per hour. to see if I can lift the nose off the ground. We were a little uncertain about weight and balance still, even though we did our calculations, and wheel placement. Some concerns about that, about whether I'd be able to rotate the nose up. And Bob, in his wisdom, had concerns about the tow line being connected to the nose of the glider and that creating a downforce that might cause problems, as opposed to towing right through the CG with a Y bridle. You can either hook it up somewhere on structure so that it's running through the overall all-up CG, or you can do a Y bridle, which kind of self-compensates. But I talked Bob out of it. I says, you know, the angles are small, and I don't think the downforce due to the tow rope pulling on the nose of the glider above me is going to be that big of a force. And I think the Elevons will easily overcome that. And unfortunately, I couldn't have been more wrong. Bob was right. I was wrong. It was a problem, and we eventually had to resort to a Y bridle. And eventually I'll get some type of mount for the towing rig set up somewhere on the nose here so that we can do single point towing through the CG. But towing through the CG was critical, just like a regular hang glider. I thought the Elevons would allow me to get around that, but not really. So I'm going to let this video run for you here. You're looking at 3 views. Oh, let me pull that back forward again. Oops. You're looking, I tried to synchronize these as best I could. You're looking at the 3 views. The one camera that's on top of the wing looking at the tufts. Here you're looking forward at my feet, and you can watch the control arms here for the cables, and you'll see when I go to full up elevator and nothing happens because the pitch doesn't change. We have the angle of attack here is right about 0 degrees here, and we're showing the wind speeds about 5 miles an hour, and I'm just getting ready to roll. I have my hand up on the release. Now I'm talking to Peter in the truck via cell phone. We have a Bluetooth headset going to a cell phone and then up to Peter's cell phone so that he can hear my commands and he and I can communicate back and forth, which was extremely handy. And I should point out to you that these tufts that are turned around backwards on the wing, we forgot to clear them. They're actually stuck to the edges of the tape. And despite the fact that we're going 15 miles an hour, they will never straighten out. So you have to just kind of watch these tufts here and maybe the ones out here. But the flow conditions looked good overall. Sitting level on the ground, the wings at about a 2-degree angle of attack, and the flow looked good. The flow looked good over the Elevon gap. I have seals on the bottom now. And other than the area where we didn't loosen up the tufts, the flow was good. So I'm just going to let this roll, and then we'll come back and we'll look at it kind of step by step because it goes pretty quick. Here we go. And we decided to roll up to about 10 miles an hour, and then I would tell Peter to go 15 when I wanted to go a little faster. The steering was quite sensitive. The next go around to fix that situation. Once you're up to about 15 miles an hour, the winglets take over. And there you see I have 4 up elevator in, and it's coming off the ground. So heavy on the nose. And I know it's bouncing around a lot here, but we'll go back and we'll do some freeze frames. Here you see the brake come down. There's the brake. That's right. I just put my foot down to do the braking. Now let me take this back. And there we're going 9 miles an hour. If you look in the lower right, you'll see it says 9.4 miles per hour and essentially 0 angle of attack. We're using about, I think we got about 100, 150 feet of line out for the tow. And right here, let's see, I back this up a little bit more. I have just kind of the nominal neutral setting on the elevator. I got a little bit of up elevator in there. And you see that with the control horns here. And the airspeed reading here is reading about 12 miles an hour at that point. And we can't quite see the hull. Oh, there. That reads 14 on the anemometer. And the hull is reading about 12 or 13. So they're pretty close. Hulls are notoriously wrong. But overall, that's pretty close to each other. You know, if you're within a mile per hour of those two, that's pretty good. So we're up to about 14 miles an hour here, and at 14, the idea was at 15, let's see, I'm up here 14.8. At 15, I was going to pull in elevator, see if I could lift the nose off the ground. And the idea was that if I was able to lift up the nose off the ground and hold it steady at, say, 3 inches off the ground, then we know that the glider is pitch stable and ready for flight. But I was unable to get the nose off the ground. It was solidly attached to the dry lake bed. Despite that speed. And at 15, I should have been able to lift it because stall speed's up around 20. So I should have been able to lift the nose, but I was unable to do that. So we roll this forward. And I'll get up to the next scene here. So we did notice through all of this that the flow over the Elevon's pretty good here. If you're looking, stop here. If you look at this area, it looks good. It's good on the Elevon. And all of these would be nice and straight if they weren't stuck to the tape. And they were later. Unfortunately, we don't have footage of later. I think I need one more person working with us on the dry lake bed because we were so busy. The three of us were so busy that doing all the camera work, setting up 3 or 4 cameras and getting them all up and running was too much because we're having to do engineering on the fly anyway. So it was a bit of an overload to try to record it all. So we get up to the next segment here. Now, this next segment is from Peter's 360-degree camera that's mounted at the aft end of the tail boom. And you'll see I'm sitting on the wood board here. I got my hand up on the release, and we're going to, the idea here is we will go fast enough to lift the nose this time, and we've made some changes. We had some discussions whether it was the load on the tow line on the nose, whether that was holding the nose down. Maybe the main landing gear here was too far aft still, and it was very hard to lift up the nose because the CG is well forward of the axle, and that could have been part of it. Maybe I was sitting too far forward. Maybe there aren't things just nose heavy. I'm too far forward. The whole rig is too nose heavy. So what we did is we took, unfortunately, I made the decision to take 2 dumbbells, hand weights, 5 pounds each, and strap them onto the aft end of the pilot's cager. So we put 10 pounds of weight about 1.5 feet behind me, something like that, and to rebalance the glider and make it a little lighter on the nose. And the plan was we would roll and see if I could lift the nose with that new weight and balance. And the idea was to just lift the nose wheel off the ground. And the plan with Bob was that if anything went wrong and he saw my mains leave the ground, he would drop the line immediately. Unfortunately, it took all of us by surprise, and Bob didn't drop, and it took me a while to release, and I was well in the air by the time I hit the release. So let's go watch that. I'll just let it run regular speed here, and you'll get the pleasure of watching me have a suboptimal arrival. So I'm just calling for more speed here. Basically, the time is to roll up to 15, and then I call for more to get some faster. And then we see my arm come back again to lift the nose. Here shortly, the nose is up, and then put it off the ground, shooting up, half down elevator here, holding down elevator, pull the release, go immediately into stall, and then parachuting down about 5 feet down in the ground. So, no damage to me. This is the same run, just a different view where you can see the 2 Elevons, and you see I lift the nose off, it just pops into the air here shortly. It just jumps off the ground. I'm holding for that elevator. You hit a high speed, and boom, I'm off the ground. Get off the elevator, back down to neutral, and I'm actually holding about half forward stick when I pulled the release. And the problem was when I pulled the release, it pitched up even more. I could have held the nose down as long as I was on tow, and probably flown that way, but I hadn't planned on being off the ground, and it took us all by surprise, so I just yanked the release, and then the nose really pitched up. And I went full down elevator and couldn't regain speed, and I kind of went into a parachute effect, kind of a deep stall, and just like a falling leaf back on the ground. You can see where I strapped on the weights here. So the quick conclusion was, gee, probably shouldn't have put those weights behind me because now the CG is too far aft. And indeed, that tow line was putting a lot of downforce on the nose. Because when I released it, the nose really pitched up, and even full down elevator, I could not get the nose back down. And we can look at that one more time here. This is kind of fun to watch me crash, huh? That's always fun and amusing. So here we go. I'm coming into the elevator here, and right there. Let's see. I slammed on maximum elevator. Got the nose off the, actually I had the nose off the ground once. Let's even go further back. Let's see, somewhere in here I had the nose up and told Peter I had it up. I said nose up, and then I laid in some more elevator, and she just jumped off the ground right there. It was like pow, she just jumps off. And as soon as she jumps, I'm off the up elevator, and here you see essentially neutral elevator. I'm working on picking up a low wing on the right side also. But boy, I go shooting up pretty quick. And next thing I know, I'm up here. To me, it seemed like I was about 20 feet up, but Bob says I was really only about 10 or 15 feet up. Seemed higher because it came as a shock. So I pull the release, and then you see me go into down elevator here, somewhere in here. Well, I guess we never see that. Got some down elevator in. But I was way forward on the stick, didn't gain any speed, and crumped down on the wheel. And there we go. So this is the same flight. You get to watch the left elevon go through this. And this was just really more for engineering purposes, so you can see where the controls were. I wish we would have had to do the touch. But it took full up and so the conclusion is, don't tell it from the nose. It's a bad thing. Why not? Tell you there you see me. Trying to get the nose down. Wow. We figured it took about 2.5 or 3 negative G's on impact at the center. There was no damage to the wing to speak of. Actually, no damage at all. The only thing we broke was the axle for the wheel. Unfortunately, I had almost all of my shop tools there and tons of spares, except a spare axle. So one thing I didn't bring. So we were stuck at that point. We looked at a couple other options. I had the wheels with me that you normally use for foot launch flight. We looked at those and said, geez, really not going to be able to steer very well, and it's going to be at a weird angle, and there's too many unknowns. So we took all the wheels off, and I says, at least we can get some ground handling done here that I wanted to complete, because I made some changes to the lift point and the way that I lift using the main harness, and got rid of the shoulder harness. So there were some new things that I wanted to try out, and they worked out really well. I'm glad we did those little exercises, and I'm going to have a video coming in a few days about that work. And we walked into the wind, and then we trot and run, and we were able to work with the hang point of the harness, which we know had been off before, and actually get a sense of what it's like for me to hang from the overhead beams that I designed into the wing for supporting the pilot. And on none of the flights so far have we actually used those. I've always been in a fixed position. So here we had a chance to run across the lake bed and try it out. And in fact, we actually set up a Y bridle. Bob set it up, did a great job. And we ran some line out to a couple of guys in front of me, Peter and a guy by the name of Steve that was hanging out there at the lake. And they did a hand tow of me. Bob ran alongside me, I ran, and we started out in a walk, and we'd work up to a run, and actually got to the point where the glider lifted my full weight, and my feet might have been an inch or so off the ground. And we're very happy that we've now identified the correct CG location for my hook in, and it's as predicted, so that when we go do future foot launch flights, we know precisely where to hook in and that it will work fine. And the wing was easy to handle. It was stable. It wasn't overly pitchy. We did have some gusts that caused some rolling conditions that I couldn't counteract, and we felt that was because really low speed. We were probably only going about 15 miles an hour. We had about a 7 to 10 mile an hour headwind, and the guys are trying to run about 10. So we were just barely at stall speed, just enough for me to get light on my feet. But it was very helpful to find this out. So we've now identified the correct hang point for me, and we've identified the correct lift position with the new setup on the harness. So we learned a lot. Unfortunately, because we were so busy, we have no video of those hand towing runs. And if people would have had a little bit more energy, or if we had had 5 mile an hour more steady headwind, they could have actually flown me up that way, and we could have gotten in a couple of short hops, but that didn't happen. So right now I'm going about designing and building an improved set of wheels for it, so we can go back and do more tow testing. And if we happen to run into conditions where it's good for foot launch at the beach, I'll probably take it there and try a foot launch flight. So I appreciate all your support. If you're not already a Patreon member, please click on the link below and go on over and check out Patreon and find out how you can get your very own set of plans for this wing. I'm in the process of drawing them, and there's a membership level there on Patreon where you can get your own set of plans. So please go on over, take a look, and if not that, then at least hit that subscribe button. You know how much we love that. So thanks for watching, and until next time, as I always say, fly safe. Bye for now.